And we're going. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the latest edition of the Hudson County Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Haig, and with me today, I have a very, very special guest, probably the only Olympian from Jersey City, and she's got a silver medal to prove, and it's my friend, Gail Marquis. Gail, how are you today?
I'm doing great today, Jim. It's so nice to hear your voice, and thanks for inviting me.
No problem. Very glad to have you. And you've been a great help to me over the years. When I was involved with the Hudson County Sports Hall of Fame, you came and spoke to my students that were there, and you showed off your silver medal there. And then you did the same at Hudson County Law Day last year with the same thing, and everybody is entranced with getting a chance to see your silver medal. That's incredible. So
I know, folks have seen Super Bowl rings, and they've seen what the other major league sporting team, the World Series rings. Those come out every single year, but it's a limited amount of Olympic medals, that's for sure, and only a limited amount come back to our country every 4 years. And then for me to be able to share the first ever one for women's basketball, I almost feel like it's an obligation so people can see it.
Nice. And that's true. Yours was the first ever medal ever received in women's basketball in the Olympics. So
that's right. It was the first time women played at the games.
Yeah, 1976 Olympics. That was in Montreal, correct?
That's right.
All right, let's go. Take a little trip down memory lane, Gail, if we can. You were born in New York City, and did you stay there for most of your life?
Yes, I did. I grew up in St. Albans, Queens, New York, which is in Queens, part of Jamaica, almost close to the Long Island border. Grew up with my parents and my other four siblings and my grandparents and my aunts who were in the same house. It was a two-family home, quite cozy. It's funny when you're growing up, it's not until you get older that people say you might have been poor or didn't have as much. I really didn't feel that at all. I really felt well taken care of growing up. I went to public school. I didn't have a scholarship to high school or to college. And at that time, women's basketball and girls basketball was just growing.
Okay, now tell me, before we go that far, talk a little bit about when did sports come into your life, and did it come at a very early age, and were you encouraged by, say, any of your siblings that maybe brought you along and had you play basketball, or did you play any other sports as well?
Well, I started, I always played games in the street, maybe punch ball or stick ball in the street, right on top of the blacktop, the asphalt. Right. There wasn't much organized sports, and my older brothers and sisters, my older cousins, they did not play sports. It wasn't much that was organized. It wasn't until I got to high school, believe it or not, they had a teacher's strike. And so I'm starting high school, the 9th grade, and maybe for the first 2 months of school, there was no school. They just took attendance. Oh, wow. And I was really dejected, and I didn't like school naturally because of that. I had always enjoyed school before, but my sister recommended I go to the Catholic Church. They had something called the Catholic Youth Organization, CYO.
Right.
And so my cousins were Catholic, and I mentioned their name because we were Lutherans. But I still got to play at the Catholic League, and I just got a sense of friendship from them. And I just played on the teams and learned the sport. And because I was tall, I was close to the basket. I didn't have much as way of skills. I was just tall.
Okay.
But as I stayed with it, I had a nice man who was our coach, Mr. White. And then when I went to high school, when it got back in session, they still did not have teams for girls.
Okay. What high school did you go to?
I went to Andrew Jackson High School,
okay,
which was a good powerhouse for boys basketball. And they played against like the Boys Highs and the Brooklyn Techs. Okay. But again, there weren't any programs. Now forget how much there were no programs for girls.
None. Right?
No, that was my freshman year, and I think it was not until my sophomore, possibly my junior year, that they finally got organized basketball. And my college coach likes to tell others that I only played 6 games a year. That was our schedule. We only had 6, 3 at home and 3 away. And then you went to the playoffs.
Did you play 3-on-3 at that time, or was it 5-on-5 full court?
No, the first year, which must have been my sophomore year, we did play 3-on-3, six player basketball.
Right.
And of people don't understand 6. Well,
Please,
you had
please
2 on
explain
offense.
it. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, we had 2 on defense, 2 on offense, and we stayed on those half courts. And we couldn't cross that center court. But there were 2 other players, so we had the 6. There were 2 other players who were called rovers, and they were allowed to cross the midcourt line. So once they crossed the midcourt line, it ended up to be like a 4-on-4 game. And then as a change from offense to defense, and you came back and it crossed the midcourt line again, you weren't able to play. You weren't able to cross that line. Only the Rovers could.
Isn't it amazing?
It really was, and it was almost. I never understood it until I got older, and even still, I don't understand it. But
I understand it still to this day. But people explain it to me, and I say, and I've played 3-on-3 in a courtyard setting, but in an organized setting, I can't understand how that worked. But
right.
that was women's basketball. That was girls' basketball.
That was girls' basketball. So by my junior year, thank goodness they changed it, and we went to 5-player full court, and we just kind of jumped right into it and really enjoyed it. Then I still only had 6 games a year. That was a whole season. Right. And then we went to the playoffs. And our team never, even though we would win district or our section, we never did well to the next round. To me, we just didn't have that much playing experience. We didn't get a chance to play a lot. Okay.
But when it went to 5-on-5 full court, did your game get enhanced because you were taller than most of the players? I mean, you're still tall now. I'm going to say, what, 6'2", 6'3"?
I'm 6 feet, a nice even 6 feet.
Okay, nice even 6 feet. Okay.
But then when I stopped playing with the Catholic League, which was after school, then our high school got a team. It went from 6 players to the 5 in the full court. There were at least 2 others who were taller than me, so I could kind of settle into my power forward position and start to learn it and learn how to play and learn how to face the basket and catch and shoot, things like that. And our coach was a very nice woman, but she was a swim coach, and it was sort of like she was a chaperone to roll out the balls. She was a great.
There were a lot of those back then in the 60s, that's for sure. A lot of those people that just said, okay, here's the balls, go play, and they didn't know what they were doing. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah, but she was very nice. She was sweet, and we're still friends to this day. And, we at least were able to play. Okay. We were able to get into the gym from 3 to 5 or 3 to 4. But there wasn't much instruction, so we learned a lot of it ourselves. And then as I'm thinking about stepping into the college game, there were no college scholarships for girls or women, and there was no recruitment. Nobody came to my school, or no coach came by and said, you're a good player. Have you thought about playing here or there? Nobody came by.
Okay.
No recruitment. So I kind of found my way. I would read the paper, the local newspaper, and they always covered the team at Queens College.
Yes.
And Queens College had a great team, and so not to get too long-winded,
Didn't Queens College back then have a player who was like leading the nation in scoring, and Harris was her last name? Was that?
Oh no, Lucy Harris played at Delta State in Mississippi.
Delta State. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah. Well, they had a flashy player named Debbie the Pearl Mason.
Oh yeah, Debbie Mason. That's it. Okay.
That's right. Debbie had the moves like Earl Monroe.
Right. She was Pearl before Pearl Washington. That's for sure. Right.
That's for sure. But she was Pearl after Earl Monroe.
Right.
The Pearl.
She had the same kind of moves and shakes. Right.
She sure did. Had all kinds of spin moves. She had a great handle, a great dribble. Could really see the court, and she picked up the game even more. So the year before I came or selected Queens College, they had already played they had made it to the national tournament, the final 5 or 6. They were ranked number 5 in the country after that because they finished the tournament on the elimination side.
Right.
And the powerhouses at that time were the Immaculata colleges that you've heard of. They won 3 championships in a row. Right. And so I came in my freshman year, and I just tried out for the team. I looked to see when there were tryouts. They posted it. Whatever day in October or November, I tried out, and I made the team. And
I think the coach saw you walk through the door and say, yes, please, here's your uniform,
No, she was kind of, even if she thought that in the back of her mind, I guess she wanted to put me in my place. I didn't start a lot of the games. Thank goodness there were other good players I could learn off of.
Okay.
And I was really, I don't know the right word to say, I was really angry with this coach who used to yell so much and holler so much. And why couldn't she just talk in a normal voice? I was everything at a screech and a holler. And at least my teammates, the upperclassmen, could kind of keep me and say, just bear with it. You're doing good. This is just the way she is. And they gave me great encouragement. And of course I stayed. I'm not a quitter. Made it through that freshman year. Ended up starting games toward the end of the freshman year. By the end of our freshman year, we were playing for the national championship in Queens.
Okay.
Yeah, we played against Immaculata College, who was the perennial. They had won the championship before. They were a powerhouse.
And was that with Teresa Grentz?
Exactly. Her name was Teresa Shank at the time, but she got married, and the married name was Teresa Grentz. She went on to coach at Rutgers University,
and then went to the University of Illinois. Right.
Exactly. So I always tell youngsters when I see them, male or female, boys or girls, that in order to be a champion, you really have to get past the champion. And anybody in sports, whether it's Serena trying to get past Billie Jean or McEnroe trying to get past Rod Laver or Kobe Bryant, he had to get past a Michael Jordan in order to just sit on top and be a champion. You have to go through these champions. So I had to go through Teresa Shank in order to win. And it wasn't until our sophomore year we lost in the national championship my freshman year, Queens College versus Immaculata, and I started as a freshman in a power forward position and sometimes in the center. And we lost our championship game to them by about 20 points. That's my freshman year. The sophomore year, we scheduled a game and they came back to us to play again at Queens College. And then I studied the game. I studied that player, Teresa Shank, and we were able to defeat them on our home court just by 1 point. But a win is a win, as you would say.
Win, that's for sure.
A win is a win. And you know what was good, and to break down the game a little bit, is that the college coach, my coach, her name was Lucille Cavalis.
Okay.
And what she would do is she would have us play against men or against some of the young guys in the gym. Okay. And she would hand pick and hand select. So she might have selected this big guy, his name was Jimmy, and told him, no, you're not just going to shoot jump shots. You're going to position yourself. She gave Jimmy all the moves that Teresa Shank used to use. Okay. She likes to roll off the high post and either keep going to the basket, or she likes to do a little jab step out and shoot. And she drilled those moves into Jimmy so that when he came to play against me in the practices, I was playing against Teresa Shank's move.
Okay, that's a great idea.
And she did this
ahead of her time.
Yeah, and she did the same thing for one or two other key positions. Like their point guard was Marianne Stanley. Okay. Yeah, Marianne was their point guard, so she's matching up against Debbie Mason. Same thing, the type of shot that Marianne likes to do, or the drives that Marianne likes to do, or any of her hesitation moves, or how she ran the court. Again, she would drill that into Richie, so when Debbie the Pearl Mason played against Richie is only doing the moves that Marianne Crawford would do.
Wow.
Yeah, she was coaching the offense just as much as she was coaching me and Debbie and the other players. And it paid off. We beat them on our home court. Okay. And from there, we had about 3,000 people, maybe 2,000. Okay, 2,000. But we had it on the court at Queens College in Flushing, New York, on like a Tuesday at 5 o'clock or something like that, or 6 o'clock.
Certainly not the way it is now, right?
No, not at all. But that was the key to Madison Square Garden, noting that here's a little girls basketball team, because even though we were all over 18 and some 21 and 20, here's a girls basketball team that's drawing 2,000 or 3,000 players, 2,000 or 3,000 fans on a Tuesday night, let's invite them to Madison Square Garden.
Wow.
And then by my junior year, we were invited as the first time they ever had women's basketball.
Is that so? Really? You played and won the first women's game ever at Madison Square Garden? That's wild.
It was February 21st, 1975. It was the first time women ever played basketball.
That was a prelim to who played the second game that night, do you know?
You know who played? I think it was Manhattan College, maybe against Navy. I think it was Manhattan and Navy.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure if Champion was on that team, Billy Champion, and
sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they were on that Manhattan team, but that was the game after. So we drew about 11,000, almost 12,000 at Madison Square Garden.
That must have been a thrill and a half, Gail, being a girl from New York and playing at the Garden. That must have been, you walked out on the floor and looked around.
If you ever, at least the day before that game, we were able to go 1 or 2 days ahead of time and get a feel for it. Because when you play in a huge stadium like that, an arena, unlike the gyms on the corner, you have a wall behind you. You can tell the depth.
Yep. The depth perception is always the key when it comes to playing arena basketball.
Arena basketball, there's no depth. There's no wall behind. Even the seats behind are so far back. So it was good. 1, to get the jitters out, and then 2, to make the adjustments. And it was a good thing that we played much better and felt much better. But you know that time when we went to just to visit and just to kind of work out that day before, who came out because he had a game and he was in the area, was a coach from Marquis University.
Al McGuire.
Yeah. Al McGuire came out and he sits there, one of the chairs crosses his legs, and he's talking to our coach, Lucille Cavalis. And I'm almost going bananas because I know Al McGuire. I know Marquette. You know, I know those players and all. So it was great to have him just sitting on the sidelines, checking us out as we ran through our layup drills and our shooting drills, just to kind of get used to the court, find the dead spots on the Madison Square Garden court.
Okay.
And so 2 days later, we came back to play that game against Immaculata. They were handpicked. And as we're coming out of the tunnel from underneath and we're coming out and they're getting ready to start, they put the music on to bring us out. And what do they play but Helen Reddy's I Am Woman?
Oh, no. Really?
Oh, yeah. I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar. And it was a little cheeky at the time. It was a cheeky way you think about it now. But at that time, we weren't having any other kind of music outside of the organ player. So it was good to hear this is specific for the women. The crowd got into it, they roared, and we just stepped into history.
All right, now correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't you also helped that Dave Anderson of the New York Times came to write a story about Queens College and about how well you were playing? And getting somebody like Dave Anderson, a big-time sports writer, to cover your game must have been a huge thrill.
Well, you know who covered our games was Bernie Beglin.
Bernie Beglin. Oh, my friend.
Bernie Beglin is who covered our games.
Okay.
Yeah, he covered the games as well as Carolyn Kane. She only did the women's games.
Okay.
Women's sports. But Bernie was there, among others on the sideline, I'm sure. But he was with the Long Island Press.
Yes, okay.
At that time. And then later on, the Long Island Press was bought by the Newsday.
Right.
It was, that was kind of the progression of it. And even when I made it to the Olympics, I think Bernie was in Montreal.
Yes,
when I got for Bernie.
Then he was working for Associated Press. And he was a big women's college basketball reporter for Associated Press.
Oh, okay.
Bernie was a longtime friend. God rest his soul. He was great. And his son Eddie became a college basketball coach himself, and he was at Manhattan College for a while as an assistant. So the basketball was definitely in the Beglin family. As a matter of fact, Bernie Beglin taught a sports communications class at St. John's University as well. So he was very well into it. So when you say Bernie Beglin, he was a great proponent for women's college sports. He did a great job.
Nice. Well, that's who I remember. That was my precursor. And it was interesting, I knew of them when I was growing up, but didn't always reach out to speak to them unless you were spoken to. And that was just the dynamics of growing up at that period of time. But, years later, decades later, it's nice when they remember you and you can kind of reflect back on them and remember certain things, and often things that they don't even realize.
Sure.
We played another game. I think it might have been my senior year. I'm not sure, maybe my junior. But the guy who interviewed us was a baseball player named Jim Bouton.
Jim Bouton, sure.
Jim came and interviewed us when we played a game against, I think it was a Chinese team or a Taiwanese team who came into play, and we played them at a gym in Chinatown. I think Pace University we played them. So
okay.
I know my parents were there somewhere in the crowd, but really it was 90% Chinatown was in there because they had the national team from the Republic of China came into play.
Wow.
Queens College being one of the best teams in the area, we were asked to go up against them, and we did, but we were playing right there in the pit. Right there, and I had no idea. I knew we were playing at Pace University, but again, when you're young, somebody picks you up at the gym. You get in the car or the bus, and they drop you off at this place to play. Okay, we're playing. You suit up and you just go out and play. I didn't really know where I was.
Okay.
So, but still another high, intense, exchange of flags at halftime, national anthems from both countries. So I did a bit of that as well coming up as we were just starting. Okay. But those teams, when we played against the Republic of China or the People's Republic from Taiwan, things like that, they were well-seasoned teams. They had been playing a long time. And it showed even when we made it to the national team level, when I would try out for the national team for the United States, and you go up against a Russia or go against Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, these teams were well-seasoned. They had been playing organized basketball for decades.
Right.
And in America, we weren't there yet. We were slowly catching up.
Right. Now, so now was your college career over when you tried out for the national team, or how did that all come about?
Well, every year after that, I had a great sophomore year, really a notable one in that we beat the national champs Immaculata by that 1 point, and then the following year we were in Madison Square Garden. So my notoriety personally was starting to rise. So I would start to get an invitation to try out for national teams. Besides the Olympic team, there's also the World University team, and at that level you have to be enrolled in a university, which I was, and it's a university level. Okay. And then they have the Pan American Games, sure. So that countries from North and South America competed. So I would try out for these, and I'll tell you, I was never selected for the Pan American Games. I always wanted that one. The World Universities, I wasn't selected while I was still at Queens College. And there's a certain sense or a certain sort of politics that's involved.
Okay.
With the selection. Maybe it's unlike a swimmer or track and field where you're going straight by the clock. You get in the water, you get out, you come off the blocks, you break the tape. There's a stopwatch there. Okay, you made the team. The basketball was a bit more subjective in that they would have people in a selection committee.
Okay.
That would look at your skill sets. You run the drills, and they select who they want. And it could be subjective, but that's one of the things that was sort of out of my hands.
Okay.
So I didn't worry about
it. Trying out for the Olympics in '76?
Well, the tryout, since I had not made the Pan American team the year before, and those 12 players kind of had a bye or a pass, and they had to go to the national tryout. I had to go to a regional tryout, which was held in Connecticut, at Southern Connecticut. Forget about UConn. They weren't in the mix at all.
At all.
At all. It was Southern Connecticut State College, and all of us in the region, about 250 women, just from New Jersey all the way up to Maine, congregated for a 3-day tryout.
Wow.
At Connecticut. Wow. 3 days, and if you registered ahead of time, you knew to bring 3 T-shirts, red, white, and blue, and put a number on the back.
Okay.
And if you didn't, you just came in. They ran all kinds of drills. The organizer came out and said, "We're only taking 5 of you."
Wow.
Out of like 250, and those 5 would go from the region to try out for the national level. So again, I tell the young people, I didn't really look left or right. I don't know how the other people do. I only know how Gail Marquis did.
At that point, that's almost like pulling a needle out of a haystack. Were you confident that you had a chance, or did you say to yourself, because you didn't make the World University Games, did you say, all right, well, I'm going, but whatever happens, happens? Did you have like low expectations?
No, I did not have low expectations. I just, when they said only 5 are going, I said, all right, well, just tighten up the shoelaces, pull up the knee socks or whatever I had on. You just go for it.
Okay.
And that was good because there were weaker ones or others that said, oh, I can't do this. Fine. Easier for me. That's one less person I have to worry about. But I had all intentions to making it to the next round. And to me, I wouldn't have won. I wouldn't have been satisfied if I had gotten cut down from those last 5. And my college coach, Lucille Cavallas, was on that selection committee, and she didn't even speak to me. She didn't speak to me or the other 4 teammates. 5 of us had come up there. I told the whole starting 5 to come on. You'd be surprised how good you are. So we did go, and I made it, and let's see, Althea Gwynn, one of my other teammates, she made it. Debbie Mason wasn't on the team with me at that time, but Althea was about 6'2" or 6'3", and she was one of those selected from our area, from New Jersey to Maine, selected to go up to the next set of trials, which were the national trials. So then they would have players from all the other regions of the country, as well as those 12 players who had made the Pan American team. So you have about 50 girls and women trying out for 12 spots and 3 alternates on the first U.S. Olympic basketball team.
That is unbelievable. Now, I might be wrong with the time frame, but was Carol Blazejowski already on the Olympic team, or did she have to try out with you in that tryout in Connecticut?
Right, she was with me in Connecticut.
Okay.
And we didn't speak that much, but we knew each other, and both were respectful of each other. We had played against each other and with each other at summer camp.
Okay.
Like the Pocono Invitationals or the Eastern Basket Camp. So we had coached at those camps, so we were well aware. Plus, she played at Montclair State, and I played at Queens College. We played against each other. Carol's about 2 years younger than me, so we just had those maybe 2 years against each other.
Okay, but she was at that camp too as well, trying out for the Olympic team. Wow.
That's right, and when they said we're only taking 5, Carol was one of them who was with me, where 5 of us were selected.
Wow.
We had about 2 weeks before we had to report for the national trials. And again, they were held at Central Missouri State College. So you got off the plane, and you had to take, I think we took another bus or a car for about another hour and a half. And then when you got to that campus, it was destitute. It was like tumbleweeds rolling around and everything. But I'm just there to try out. I'm just here to play. So you ended up there for about 5 days. Okay. And maybe there were 50 girls and women there. And I say girls because there were some young ladies who were still in high school. There was one great player. Her name is Molly Bolin. Okay. Molly Bolton. And later on she took on the nickname of Machine Gun Molly because she was a great shooter. In high school, she averaged 50 points a game.
She averaged 50 a game? Wow.
She averaged 5-0. But the thing with Molly was that, God bless her, she was from Iowa. Okay. And Iowa was still playing 6-player rules. Oh, so Molly had no idea what to do on the other side of the court.
Oh, so that's not good. Yeah,
Remember I told you with the 6-player rule, you only stay on one side. So she was just a spot-up shoot player, which was great. But then when you had to get back on defense, she had no idea what to do. She couldn't stop anything. And, to her detriment. So she was not selected. But we got into that training camp, and after about, let's say, 3 days, they made a cut from 50 down to about 20 or 22.
All right. Now, where was Nancy Lieberman at this point?
Nancy was in that mix. Nancy had made the Pan Am team the year before.
Okay, so she was one of the 12 that got the bye to go right to the tryouts.
That's right, and Nancy was about 17 years old.
Yes, she was still in high school.
She was young. She was still in high school. So listen, Jim, when I go out and lecture, even now today, I'll go do lectures, and I always talk about Nancy because she was the youngest. She's still the youngest that had played on the women's basketball team. And I asked these young kids.
Still to this day, she's the youngest. She's the youngest Olympian ever. Yes.
No, just on basketball. Just in basketball.
In women's basketball. She's
still the youngest. She's still the youngest. And I asked young girls, so listen, Nancy foregone her prom and her graduation because our tryouts were in May. So she didn't get to finish up the traditional way of finishing up high school. Right. She didn't go to the prom. She was on the Olympic team, so I asked them, prom, Olympics. Prom Olympics. Which one would you choose? Listen, Jim.
I think it's an easy choice.
No, it's not. Inevitably, I get a couple of hands saying prom.
Seriously?
Oh, I am serious.
Oh,
and I'm serious. This is whether I say this in Pennsylvania or right here in Jersey City. They're always out there. Well, I would prefer to go to the prom.
Over the Olympics.
Over the Olympics.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh. All right. So, anyway, so then now you're with 50 other girls and women at Central Missouri State in the middle of nowhere, trying out to get a spot with 15 people on the Olympic team. How tough was that?
That was real tough. I think the first or second day I got cut over my eye. Somebody was trying to defend me, and I got a scratch. And any time I would perspire or sweat, it gets into that, so it's quite irritating. But what you're going to do? I ended up putting a piece of tape on my head, sort of like the Spirit of '76, so that the sweat would not get into it or would run off of it, so I could still continue. But it was get the blinders on.
Did the cut need stitches?
No, it didn't need stitches. It was a scratch. It wasn't deep enough. Thank goodness it didn't need stitches and the swelling that would have gone with it. But it was still irritating. It was just above the eyebrow. And so the perspiration that would get into it would often bother me. But I couldn't say anything. I wasn't going to say anything. I was just trying to ignore it. I wasn't going to go.
More importantly, they could have plucked out your eyeball, and you weren't going anywhere. You were staying right there because you were that close to making the Olympic team, correct?
That's right. I'm down to the last 22, 23. I'm still here. They put us through all kinds of drills, and what I would often do is kind of lay back a little bit to look at the drill.
Okay.
Because those 12 that had been on the Pan Am, they know these drills. They know how the things work. And so I would kind of lay back. I wouldn't often be the first, just to see how it ran. And to to what I wanted to do, there were some rebounding, boxing out drills and starting the fast break that worked for me. Okay. Others might have labored in the drill, 3 or 4 times. I got in, got the rebound, pitched it out, and started the break. Okay. And they had another drill they used to do was they would pair you up with certain people. Okay. They would say, Gail, Marquis, play against Pat Head. Okay. You two go over there and play 1-on-1, 5 baskets. First to 5 baskets wins, and the winner come and report. Now, I had been in that same drill years before and always I didn't have individual one-on-one skills. Okay. By the time I got to those trials, I had the one-on-one skills. So I was able to beat the Pat Heads, the Nancy Liebermans, the Ann Meyers, and the Carol Blazejowskis that I had to beat to make sure I could report every single time.
Right, and then I've seen films of you playing back then, okay? Mm-hmm. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think one of the things that helped you as a player is that even though you were tall, you were extremely quick for your height. And do you think that your quickness helped you, especially when you got to the national level? Did the quickness help you more than anything else?
It helped me, and also I had a few offensive moves by then. Right. I could turn and face the basket, and I had several offensive moves to get myself open. And I also had worked hard to play off the ball, so I could work and get myself off the ball for maybe a backdoor cut or a back screen, or use some of the other skills to get in there. And then I think one of my keys was the rebounding and the putback. So often when I would rebound, especially on the offensive boards, I never brought the ball back down. I would rebound, keep it up high, and put it right back on the glass.
Beautiful.
And just try to do that quickly.
When you say Pat Head, let's tell the listeners who that Pat Head became. She became Pat Summitt, was the all-time leader in women's college basketball history in terms of wins before Gino Auriemma just passed her recently. But Pat Summitt had an incredible career at the University of Tennessee, and God rest her soul, she had Alzheimer's at an early age, and she passed away a couple of years ago. But, that's who I'm talking about. Pat Head later on became Pat Summitt, and she was a great friend. Just good to talk to, and a gutsy player. Before the Olympic trials, Pat had gone through a knee surgery of some sort. I'm not sure if it was an ACL, but she had messed it up, so she was wearing a ugly brace.
They used to have those braces with the hinges on them. Remember those?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
So, I didn't like to be near them because sometimes those braces might get to you and everything, and cut you. And I'm just trying to guard you. Mm-hmm. So she had that, and really, I think she discarded it. So she was wearing a different type of brace or support on her knee. But she worked it out. She fought back, and she was in there. She was in there as a fighter, and she played a small forward, maybe a little bit of power forward, but mostly small forward she played. So she was a gutsy player and didn't give up anything. Great defensively. Always difficult to get around her or get to the basket. And if you did get to the basket, you paid for it. You know, you had some bruises, you had some remnants of having gotten past her. Yeah. But always a gutsy player. Also on those trials was Nancy Lieberman. We spoke about her, right. As well as Ann Meyers.
Okay, great career.
Yeah, great career at UCLA. Mm-hmm. And then the top player in the country was Lucy Harris. Okay. Lucy had played for Delta State University, and she had won 2 national championships by the time we got to the Olympics. And then after the Olympics, she went back to finish her senior year and won another championship. But those were some of the greats, and I think all 4 of them I mentioned are in the Hall of Fame in Springfield.
That's correct.
Massachusetts. But all 4 of them on the team. And what is great as you fast forward years later, decades later, I still talk to Lucy 1 or 2 Sundays a month. Ann Meyers, when we get together. I was at an event in Indianapolis at the NCAA, and I had called Nancy ahead of time or emailed or texted her, said we'll be in town, da-da-da-da-da. We ended up catching up for lunch. And with Pat Summitt, even though she was in Tennessee, when she came to New York, I think she played St. John's or Syracuse or somebody. Okay. You know, I asked her ahead of time, do you have time? Can I see you? And we met down in the locker room, either before the game or while the team was out there doing their pregame warm-ups. And anytime she would hit one of the milestones, 500 wins, 600 wins, whatever, I would always drop her a little handwritten note, congratulations. Always do that. And she would either call, she usually would just call back. And it was great to be able to pick up, hi, this is Gail, and she had a twang, and then a twang in her voice, T-Man! So I was like, oh, yes, Pat, how are you? Between the laughing and just listening. And she couldn't stay long, but just as she took the time. I took the time to just drop you a note, congratulations. She took the time to call back. And it wasn't her assistants, but she would call back. So it was always nice to hear.
So that was, you were on a team. Now, first of all, when did you find out that you had made the team, and what kind of reaction was that? Like, and how long did it take you to call home to say, Mom and Dad, I made the team?
Absolutely right. So we were at those trials. They made a cut. It's down to the last 25. I'm doing good. But that very last night, that Friday night, I like to tell people, they had our final scrimmage, and they would pair us up. And so by that time, I was paired up against Carol Blazejowski to do the full court action. And I thought, and Carol had a great camp as well. She had a great tryout. And I thought she played well against me. In fact, I thought she had like 50, because she's a good scorer, but she's also a quick scorer.
Right.
And before you know it, she's got 10 points. And I say 10 because we only played maybe 10-minute scrimmages.
Okay.
But I really thought that I was mad at myself because I really thought that I had messed up. I might have been tired, or Carol definitely was on, and I thought that was it. I'll never get selected, but I went back to my room and I started to pack my bag because I figured I was going back to New York, and my mother would meet me at the airport, which I hated because that meant I was a failure.
Oh.
But in turn,
if you made it that far, but still, go ahead. So, what was the reaction when you got the word?
Well, they said they were going to post a list on the wall, which they did, and I didn't go to look at it because I was busy packing my bag so I could go back home. And then, crazy Nancy Lieberman comes in and with her flaming red hair, and she's like, Gail, we made it, Queens is in the house, because she was from Far Rockaway. Right. And I told her to get the F out of my face. I said, leave me alone, stop messing with me, leave me alone. And so she left, but she was still running through the halls, acting like a 17-year-old. And then Carol came in a little bit later to say congratulations. And that's when I knew that I had made the team. I never really looked at that list on the wall because I didn't believe it. And in case they made a mistake, I didn't want to see the mistake in case they messing with me. And then a couple of others came in and their face were red. And it was mixed because, great players made it. The selection committee knew what they were looking for. I don't doubt that I needed to be on that team, which should have been selected. It was a good 2 to 3 hours when things settled down. I called my mother because my father worked at night, so I knew he wasn't home.
Okay.
I called my mother and I said, "Mommy, I'm not coming home." She said, "Oh, is everything all right?" And I said, "I made the Olympic team." She said, "Oh, that's wonderful. I'll tell your father when he comes home." And that was it. They didn't get too excited, which is fine with me. And then I called my coach, Lucille Cavallis.
Okay.
And I called to tell her that I had made the team. She said, "Oh, good. You're an alternate." And I said, No, Miss Cavallis. I made the team. I'm not coming home." And there was a long pause in there. She said, "Oh, my God." And we talked about who knows what, and she hung up, and who knows what went on that other side. But we got 1 or 2 days off, and then we really had to get ready as a team to get ready to go up because the U.S. had not qualified for the Olympics. So we had to play a qualifying tournament in 6 weeks in Toronto, Canada.
Oh, my gosh. I didn't know that. I had no idea that there was you had to qualify for the Olympics.
Qualifying, yeah, because the team had not won in the World Championships. So you had all of these great, the Yugoslavia and Czechoslovakia. Like, where are they now? They no longer exist.
Yeah.
Those were great women's teams, as well as the Soviet Union, which is it's called the Republic of Russia or something like that.
Yep.
But those countries changed. So we were playing countries at that time was shown to exist now. And they were big, they were huge. We didn't have to play Russia. We had to play Poland, Czechoslovakia. We played Cuba. Okay, we played the team from Cuba.
Okay.
I tell people sometimes they were like playing some of the kids from the South Side or something because they had great skills, real quick, great precision. But again, we were able to beat a lot of teams with endurance and with our defense, and then get the shooters in. So we won that qualifying tournament, which then allowed us as a team to represent the United States at the Olympics. And we went to the staging area, which is like 3 days before you actually go to the Olympic Games to get all your gear. You got to get your uniforms home and away, your warm-ups, the parade uniform. So when you march in, you have a certain uniform.
Yep.
And it often needs alterations and fixings and all. And we didn't know it at the time. Our coaches knew it and the manager, but they didn't have anything for us. The Olympic Committee didn't expect us to be there, so there were no preparations made for us.
Is that true, really? So they didn't have uniforms for you guys?
They did not have uniforms. They didn't even have a place for us to stay at the staging area.
Oh, my gosh.
We ended up staying at the Rochester Institute of Technology. So Rochester, New York.
In New York?
In New York, yeah, we had to stay there.
How long was that from Rochester to Montreal? Was that an hour?
No, it was a couple of hours, but by then we were just trying to get to the staging area because we went to Rochester, and we had no idea that we were in Rochester because the staging area, Plattsburgh, New York, they didn't have any space for us. They didn't have uniforms for us. They didn't have anything. But again, none of us knew this. The coaches knew, and the manager knew. But the players didn't know. We were still euphoric. We had already won the qualifying. Sure. We're going to be going to the Olympics. Rochester was sort of like a stopover. But you know who took us in at that time was George Eastman.
Okay.
And George Eastman is the Eastman of Eastman Kodak.
Oh, is he really? Wow, okay.
Yeah, and Eastman Kodak, they owned Rochester, New York. So it was like, come here. And they took care of us. He had a beautiful home, so we could go there, relax by his pool, have a barbecue, flipping hamburgers, just relaxing because the accommodations at that little Institute of Technology, they were different. They weren't what we were used to. Not that we were high rollers or really prima donnas. We were not.
Okay.
But it was nice that Mr. Eastman and the Kodak family, because Kodak ran Rochester, New York.
Yeah, sure.
At the time.
Sure.
That was their time, sort of like Starbucks in Seattle or Microsoft in Seattle and Google in San Francisco, things like that.
And Nike in Portland. Yeah, the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. So they hosted us. Before you knew it, we got to the staging area. They had the uniforms, the bags. We had time for alterations. And then the next day, or maybe 2 days later, We went to Montreal. We had a day to get settled there.
Now, did your uniform fit? I mean, it's very hard to find something clothes for a woman who's 6 foot. I mean,
all of our uniforms fit. Now, the parade uniform, so when you march in the opening ceremonies,
right, with
you had a different look. Those didn't fit, but they did have tailors there to do alterations.
Okay.
And we had time for them to do the alterations.
Okay.
Yeah, they had time to do that. But again, we didn't know.
In Montreal, you're playing in the Olympics, and what was that? That had to be like a dream come true, right? I mean,
it was amazing because at least we had a day before the opening ceremonies, just to get acclimated, to get used to the place. They had two, sort of like, if you can imagine, two office towers. That they had reserved for all of these athletes. And remember, this is 1976.
Sure.
And the year before, the Olympics before, was 1972 in Munich.
Right, which was
and we know what happened in Munich.
Yep.
And so in 76, it was unbelievable military presence all around us. We had a woman with a machine gun who was on our floor.
Is that true? Wow.
We had a guy with a machine gun who sat in the back of the bus when the bus would pick us up from the Olympic Village to take us either to practice or to the games.
Oh my gosh.
He would be at the front of the bus and watch us get on. And little did we know he was making his count. Okay, I got 12 players, I got a trainer, 2 coaches, and the manager. Okay, I got 16. And he would walk into the bus after we had been seated and sit in the back of the bus with that machine gun over his lap.
Wow.
And then we get to the Olympic, either the practice or to the game, to the arena we were playing in. And he would step off, look around, and he would escort us from the bus into the arena, and then somebody else would take over. There was one instance when, after the game, Meyers, Annie has a big family, like 11 kids or something, and a lot of them came. A lot of them came to the place. And so after the game, Annie went off with her family. So we get back to the bus, and we're getting on the bus, and that guard, I won't even call him, the military with the machine gun, he was very upset. He said the count is wrong because he's missing somebody. And one of the managers said, Annie went off with her parents. And no. He was like, I came with 11, with 12. I came with 16. I'm leaving with 16. He was leaving with 16. So they had to go find Annie, leave your family, get back on this bus, so he can get us back to the Olympic Village.
Oh my gosh, that's really that's tight security. So
it was tight. You did the metal detectors and everything, and then there was a security presence around the perimeter of the towers that we stayed in. And this is all of the Olympians. All of us stayed together. And I may not have known at that time that Israel does not stay at the Olympic Village. The Israeli athletes, ever since what happened in 72, they have their own place that they stay, and they are protected by Israeli military.
Yep. But
everybody else, we go through strict regards with ID badges, and I'm sure that the security has just increased. So that was something to get used to. That was a precursor. Okay. We played the games. We had to play 5 games. It was a round robin over the 10-day period, so to speak. Even though the Olympics are 2 weeks, we had about 10 days of it. And within that time period, we opened up against Japan at 8 a.m.
At 8 a.m. Okay.
8 a.m. Well, we didn't play well, even though our coaches had been waking us up like a week before at 5 and 6 in the morning to get used to. It was hard. We didn't play well. We didn't win that first game. We beat the host country, Canada. We beat Bulgaria.
Okay.
And then we had to play against Russia. And to this day, Russia is probably the biggest women I've ever seen. They had a center who was bigger than you, Jim. She was about 7'2", 7'3".
7'2" woman?
Yes, and she weighed a good 350 to 400.
Wow.
She wore a size 18 shoe.
Oh, man.
Her hands were huge. If you can imagine, you take off your ring, your wedding ring or whatever, you could put a quarter. You could slip a quarter through the ring. That's how big her hands were.
Wow.
And she wore size 18 shoes. And she was just huge. And she wasn't very mobile. Okay? They would just sit her down in that low post and just to try to get around her. So one of the plays we tried to execute was sort of draw an offensive foul on her. So we slipped down we slipped down to a 1-3-1 and kind of collapsed on her. And one of my teammates got behind her to try and take the charge.
Wow! Take a charge on 7 foot 2.
Oh my God! She fell on my teammate. She fell on Trish. Trish is crying. This big woman is still laying on her because Uliama is all disoriented, and she's on my teammate. My teammate is crying. She's trying to crawl out from underneath this woman. I'm on the sideline saying, "Get her out! Get her out!" So that didn't work. We ended up losing to Russia by 25.
Okay, who was the coach of the Olympic team?
Oh, that's good. That's a good question. The head coach was Billie Jean Moore. Okay. Billie Jean Moore, and she was the coach at UCLA by that time. She had been at Cal State Fullerton. She moved over. She was the coach at UCLA. The assistant coach was Sue Gunner, and Gunner used to be at LSU. Yep. And then our manager was she was from Northeastern University, so she had been the coach there.
Oh, okay.
And then we also had a trainer who was assigned to us as well, thank goodness. Okay. That was our coaching staff. It was pretty small when you think of what coaches. We only had 2 coaches.
Yeah. Well, Billie Jean Moore must have known what Annie Meyers could do because she coached her in college probably.
That's right. That's right. And there was another woman on our team, Nancy Dunkel, who she had coached at Cal State Fullerton. So she hadn't been at UCLA. So they knew each other. Plus. They still had the base of that Pan-American team from the year before. Okay. The nucleus, minus, I think, 3 of us took the spots. I took a spot of one who had been on the roof there, as well as Cindy Brogman and another one, Trish Roberts. We took the spots of already established players who had been on that team.
All right, so how much did you play in the Olympic Games?
I didn't play much.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't play much. I got in, when they put you in. I played a lot harder. I played with a vengeance in practice because I wasn't getting much playing time. So, I could be pissed. But I was always looking to show the coaches, the 2 of them, what I could do, which I got a chance to do in practice. So I loved almost I won't say making my teammates look bad, but making my teammates work. Okay. I made my teammates work. If I'm not playing, the coach is going to see that I need to be playing. Even though you're not putting me in there, okay, fine, you're going to see that I should be in there. Okay. When it got to the actual games, I didn't get a lot of playing time, which I won't lie to you, Jim. It bothered me years later. It bothered me after. Okay. But I try to look at it, and it's a mature Gail Marquis. It wasn't a Gail Marquis. I won't lie to you. But it's a mature Gail Marquis that can say that I still had my place on that team.
Oh, no question.
My role was to play hard and make it hard for a Pat Head, a Pat Summit, Annie Meyers, and Lucy Harris, Nancy Dunkel. You're not getting past me in practice just because you got a place on the starting lineup. I'm always looking to get in there.
Make them pay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All right.
And then to come back to America.
You lost to the Soviet Union. Now it was really wild how they configured the Olympics back then with the round robin format. Did everybody know that even after you lost? Now that was the second game you lost in the round robin tournament. Did you think that you were done and that was it? We're not going to get a chance, or did you know you had a chance to still move on and play for the silver medal?
No, we did. We did think that we were done, but I think Bulgaria beat Japan, and so that left us, since we had beaten Bulgaria. Okay. Even though we had lost to Japan, we had the next game, and our final game was against Czechoslovakia. Right. And the coach said, if you win the game, you get a silver medal. And if you lose the game, you go home with a handshake instead of a kiss, so to speak. And so it was like all or nothing.
When you lost to the Soviet Union, that was the second loss. You probably said, okay, I guess it's time to go home. And then all of a sudden,
yes, we did.
Czechoslovakia.
Yeah, and it wasn't even a playoff game. We still had Czechoslovakia, so you wanted to keep your spirits up. But when the coach came in, when Billie Jean came in and said, Coach Moore said, listen, to our favor, Bulgaria knocked off Japan. And remember, they made us play Japan at 8 in the morning.
8 in the morning, right.
Yeah, so they beat Japan substantially. And since we had already beaten Bulgaria, we were kind of tied in the rankings. And the only thing was separating us was, can they beat Czechoslovakia? And if we had lost to Czechoslovakia, we would not have received a medal. We wouldn't even have gotten a third place medal.
Yeah, no, you would have got nothing. So
right.
All right, you beat Czechoslovakia, and you got the silver medal. And what was that like to stand on the podium at the Olympic Games?
It was unbelievable.
With a silver medal around your neck.
It was unbelievable because we didn't plan on it. I didn't plan on it.
Right.
When I would say my prayers, it was always to make the Olympic team. It was never to win a gold medal, or it was, I just want to be on the team. And sometimes you got to listen to your prayers and what you actually ask for. I want to be on the team. Now I get a chance to have a medal too. Yeah. So as we file in, we file in first, and the Soviets are behind us, and behind them is a team from Bulgaria. And then we're all like on the ground, and then they say the team from the United States of America. So we all held hands and took that big step, all 12 of us, onto the podium to stand up and hands over our head. And then they come down and put that medal over your neck. The lady the guy gives you 2 kisses, and you're just euphoric. Yeah. You're just euphoric. It's nothing you planned on. You didn't plan it. I just wanted to be on the team.
Okay. All right.
And then they they give the award to the Soviets, and then you turn and you face, and yes, they're playing the Soviet anthem, national anthem, but you still get to see the Stars and Stripes rise up there, and we all know it's the first. And after the game, and we're in the locker room and the coach says, no matter what, you are always the first.
Yeah.
And she looked at all of us. And, you see the success of the other women's teams. They've just been phenomenal. Mm-hmm. They are 4-time Olympians and 3-time Olympians and 5-time gold medalists. But again, we're the first. And I have good relations with other Olympians from past years. And one of my friends is Teresa Edwards, a 5-time Olympian from Georgia. And I was wearing my medal because I start to wear it sometimes when I have to go to certain events. And she was fawning over it. She's taking pictures. I said, Teresa, you got 5 of these. What? He said, but Gail, you have the first one.
Right.
So she wanted to take pictures with my medal.
And that's the first one, and it's historic. There's no other word to describe it. It's historic.
Yeah.
All right, but your basketball career wasn't over, and you went, and did you go back to Queens College and play again the next year?
No, I didn't, because I had used up my eligibility. I was a senior, having gone to. But what I did, and I'd always been planning to do, was to go to Europe to play. It was still early stages. It wasn't very popular. But to me, there was no place. There was no women's pro league.
Right.
There might have been a few coaching jobs. But I put together the deal that I could go to France and play basketball for a French team. They were allowed to have one foreigner, a.k.a. an American, to be on the team.
Okay.
And I ended up being there for 3 or 4 years. I would still come home during the summer, but I played on a French team and got to tour France.
Wow.
And incidentally, it was a terrible team, but the team was located in the south of France, in between Cannes, where they have the film festival, and Nice and Monte Carlo. That's where I lived.
Okay.
For 4 years. And I also went to the University of Nice, as in Nice, France. I went to the university to learn French.
Oh, wow.
And so after a while, I spoke it fluently. I had no problem. I could run up and down the French Riviera. And like I said, the team wasn't very good, but I told them, if you're going to be on a bad team in the south of, you be in the south of France.
That's not bad. Oh.
Not at all. That was a great place.
You weren't getting rich, but yeah.
But I was comfortable. They paid for my apartment and for my car.
Okay.
Whatever funds I had, as long as I stayed with the team and we had away games or even home games, the meals were taken care of, travel was taken care of. I'm a bit frugal. I was able to put some money aside. I didn't have to go crazy. But no, did not make a lot of money. And I finally came back to America full time when they had a pro league here. It was called the WBL, Women's Basketball
League, sure.
Yeah, so I played in the second and third season, and then unfortunately it folded after that.
Yeah, who did you play for? What team?
I played for the New York Stars and played at Madison Square Garden. We were the first women's professional team to play there before the New York Liberty. So we used to play doubleheaders with an NBA team. Whoever the Knicks were playing, we would play doubleheaders. And so I remember coming out or going back in, probably after my game, going back into the tunnel, back to our locker room, and hitting a high five with Julius Erving, because the 76ers were coming on to play against the New York Knicks. Yeah, that was great. That was real cool. That was cool before it was cool, to get a high five in there.
Yeah. All right, and then his you
Oh,
also,
and my coach for that team was Dean the Dream Meminger.
Dean the Dream
He was my
Meminger
coach
from
for that
Marquette?
coaching.
Okay.
From Marquette.
Yeah,
And
great man. I got to know
came
him
in.
pretty well when he coached in the USBL.
Oh, yes.
And I told him I was a Marquette guy, so we had a bond. So.
Oh,
And
I like Marquette too. But you know what was good about playing for Dean and playing at that level was Dean would bring in the teachings that he had from Al McGuire,
right,
from Red Holtzman, because Red had been the coach at the Knicks. So he would run plays for us. We had a press that we used to run. It was called 1098. And we didn't start it until there were 10 seconds on the shot clock.
Oh, really?
10,
Okay.
9, 8. And it was a helter-skelter, just act crazy, make noise, run all over the court, and it would push the tempo as the clock is going down for the opponents. And that was something that he picked up from Red Holtzman.
Oh, wow.
And we played at LaGuardia, we practiced at LaGuardia Community College. And after we practiced for a couple of hours, then the New York Knicks would come on. So Dean had a chance to talk and interact again with Red Holtzman. And I know that he was in the ear because Dean was a great student of the game. So I'm sure that he was in the ear of Al McGuire as well, getting teachings there. So in essence, Gail Marquis was able to receive teachings from a Red Holtzman and Al McGuire and different legacy players, legacy coaches like that.
Okay. Now, I remember going to games in the WBL when they had the New Jersey Gems and they played at the South Mountain Arena, and that must have been an absolute wild ride for you to go to the South Mountain Arena, considering the fact that the temperature in that building was always 27 degrees.
I think we played on ice.
Yeah, it was on top of
the ice. They would put the court right on the ice, on the hockey rink.
Right.
And so we would warm up. Well, I would warm up, and part of my warm-ups is really to start sweating profusely. I would stay in my warm-up. I'd like to get my whole body warmed up, and in that arena, my head would start to smoke. The perspiration would come off the top of my head, and I had a cloud of condensation smoke off of my head.
Right.
I guess that's how I knew I was ready. Okay, well, Marquis is ready.
That place, because it was freezing. No other words to describe that.
Yeah.
They should not have been playing at the South Mountain Arena, but that was a thrill. All right, so did you have any chance at all to try out for the 1980 Olympics? Or, we were boycotting it, and so there was no even thought of going to an Olympic game.
Well, yes, we did. Yes, I did try out. I think the trials were held in Tennessee. Yes, because none of us knew that there was going to be a boycott.
Okay.
So there were already the Olympic trials for gymnastics, because those trials start early.
Right.
Even though the games are like in July or August, those trials, like the marathoners, they've already done their runs back in January, February.
Okay.
Same thing with gymnastics. So people had already qualified. So yes, we had the tryouts. The team was selected. I was selected, but we didn't go. And
you were selected to play in the team. Oh, see.
In the 80s, but you don't get a chance to go. And I remember, I think Nancy Lieberman just left.
Okay.
Once President Carter said that we're not going. And Carol Blazejowski was selected.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, Carol was selected for the 80 team, but they didn't get a chance to go.
Right. Well, I think there's something about you, Gail. I've known you for a long time, and I never knew that you were selected for the 1980 team. See,
didn't get a chance to go. Yeah.
Horrible. Yeah.
I know.
And soon after, did you go back to France to play professionally, or what happened after the 1980 Olympic trials?
Well, after that, I had been in America, because at that time, when you had to be a real amateur. Right. You couldn't be the way the pro players get to play now. That was not going on. So
right.
I didn't think I could go back to France to play, because I had played pro for the New York Stars and the New Jersey Gems as well.
Oh, you played for the Gems? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I played for the Gems. Yeah. Kathy Marcelino was my coach, and Carol Blazejowski was my teammate.
That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we played together, and we're great friends to this day. Again, I tell you about having to go through a champion to be a champion. Yeah. Carol was definitely one I had to get through in order to, be a champion as well. And she has some great accolades of her own around her.
And didn't Pat Colasurdo play for that team too as well?
Pat played for Montclair as well as Wanda Zarameta. They all played for Montclair.
Played,
Mm-hmm.
but didn't they play in the WBL as well? Both of them?
I think Pat Colasaro might have played the year before me. I didn't play with Pat.
Oh, okay.
Unbelievable. I'm on the New York Stars, coached by Dean the Dream.
Right.
Had a great team, and after we won the championship against Iowa, the team folded.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you win a championship and your team goes out of business.
Oh, that was terrible.
And they still owe me money. They weren't paying me much, but they still owe me money.
They still owe you money? All right, I'll make sure that you can see if you can get that check with interest. So
I switched over to the New Jersey Gems and played there. That's when Carol and I played together. Kathy Marcelino from Fordham University. She was our coach at that time. And we went to the playoffs, played at South Mountain Arena, did as good as we can. And after that year, that third year of existence, that's when the league folded, the WBL.
Yeah, and that's a shame. It was really a good league. Mm-hmm. Competition was good.
Yes.
It was something for little girls to aspire to want to do. Mm-hmm. If I get a chance, I could play pro basketball. And after that league folded, there was no chance anymore. And that was really, really unfortunate.
Yeah, because little girls, they need to see someone that looks like them, like another little girl or a big girl who's doing something that they like.
Right.
And you know what's so great about the game now today is so many boys and girls are used to seeing girls play.
Right.
Even men in college are used to seeing the women from their college teams and college days playing. So it's not such a, what are you doing here?
Yep.
And they know a lot of the ladies are better than they are, or as good as they are.
No question.
So a lot of times I always played against boys in the park, or even when I got older, I would go to the playground and play against them. It was funny because my father wasn't used to that, and he would send my younger brother with me. And my younger brother did not play basketball, so he would just kind of hang on the fence, almost like, when can I leave? But I would be there just playing basketball, and on occasion, my father would drive to the basketball courts and sit in the car, which I didn't know at the time.
Wow.
He would just sit in the car and watch me play.
Oh,
I guess maybe he was going to come out if the boys had done something to me, but I never had problems with boys when I played basketball. I never had problems on the court when I played with them.
Okay.
Even if I got hit or got hurt or lost, I never had problems with them because, how do you say it? They couldn't lose.
Yeah.
Or they couldn't win. They couldn't win. I would often tell them.
They couldn't win.
They could not win. So what?
Situation, right.
You better go. Big deal.
Yeah.
You know, and then if I did win, which a lot of times I did, I would be humble enough not to rub it in their face unless they deserved it.
Right.
But I usually was humble enough. I had one guy named Frank who always bothered me. And it was funny, my next door neighbor knew I was an Olympian. And then he told Frank, and Frank was like, I can beat her. I can take her. And then, my neighbor Jimmy had known me since I was a very young girl. I mean, I had played football with Jimmy.
Okay.
And Jimmy was like, oh, Frank, I don't think so. And then, after a while, I threw down the towel. I said, okay, come on, let's go, guy. Where we going? We're going up to the local playground. I got a ball, you got a ball, let's go. So we ended up playing one-on-one, and I beat him. And I beat him in front of his friends, and I didn't have to say anything. Anytime I saw him at church, hi, Frank, how are you? I'm fine. Because I could have easily bled out. I didn't have to.
Sure.
And all I could do was whisper in his ear, and I said, Frank, you got beat by an Olympian. Okay, it's proud. Be proud.
Be proud of that. See?
I think he is. He's okay with it.
What
can he do?
Okay.
What can he do?
Yeah, no. All right, so then did you have to come to the hard realization at that point that your basketball career was over?
Yeah. Yeah, and I had to find something to do.
All right. How hard was that to come to the realization that it was over, and you were still relatively young? How old were you? About 25?
Yeah, I was 25, and I was very competitive. I did go to a middle school because I had to finish up my student teaching. I had not graduated from college.
Okay.
After the 4 years. When I went to try out and make that Olympic team, once I made the team that evening, I had 2 days, and then we started practices that following Sunday or Monday.
Okay.
So I didn't have a chance to come home to New York and relic in it and, take time off, go back to class, and take the final exams. I didn't take any final exams. But thank goodness my teachers did not fail me. One gave me a passing grade. Everybody else gave me incompletes.
Okay.
And so while I was on the Olympic team, I had some physiology of exercise, biomechanics, which are how your body works. So I was able to write papers while I was on the Olympic team about the physiology of a woman athlete and the training that we're going through, the cardio. And most of them passed me. And then one made me come back and take an exam, and I think it's because he wanted to see the medal, to tell you the truth. But it was cool. That was fine. I got a passing grade.
You'll show it to anybody, right? Yeah.
I will. Yeah. In fact, now that you remind me, I had a little music box. Remember how we didn't have Walkmans? We had like a little boom box, but it was small enough. I like to have music with me, but it stopped working when I was on the Olympic team. I took it right back to EJ Corvettes. I happened to pull out my medal, and I said it stopped working while I was in Montreal.
So
there was no problem. There was no problem. I got a brand new box, and this was like at least 2 months after, with no receipt.
The receipt was the Olympic medal. See, that served as the receipt.
Yeah. So
what? Now that your basketball career was over, what did you aspire to do, and what did you want to do with the rest of your career?
Well, I ended up going into business, and by that I mean I went to Wall Street, and I went to work. I wanted a business setting. I had been in high tops and sneakers and shorts for like the last 10 years, so I wanted a job with real clothes on.
Okay.
And so I ended up. A friend of mine took my resume to a brokerage firm down in Wall Street. It was at the World Trade Center. Okay. And they looked it over, and they put me in entry level, bottom rung, moving papers around.
Oh, wow.
It was fine for me. I was in.
Okay.
I was in, and I stayed with different brokerage firms on Wall Street. It was competitive. I might have had problems. All I know I did, being a woman, being a minority woman, but I just found another path. I wanted to be a broker. I wanted to buy and sell securities. I wanted to they wouldn't let me do that.
Okay.
They said degrading things. So I kind of sidestepped over to the left and found another way to work my way up to the top. Let me go work in bonds and acquisitions, something else like that. So I kept moving forward, and eventually I always found somebody else who would help me, take me under their wing, teach me. And I went and got my Series 7, which is an exam you want to study for and sit for. And it took a couple of times, but it gives you the certification that you can buy and sell securities. You can't be a stockbroker. You can't be a stockbroker without having this license. It's called a Series 7. And so it took a while, but I sat for the exam. I passed it. I didn't want to be a dumb jock. I didn't want to have been just somebody who had maybe been passed through school, which was not the case, but only got here because. And I wanted to make sure I had proven myself. Because, Jim, if you remember, there was a rash of athletes.
Yes.
Of athletes who didn't have education. Remember Bob Love? Great players, but had no education. Or there was another guy who played for the championship Oakland Raiders. And he was... I can't remember his name, but he was a defensive guy, and he couldn't talk. He could stutter and trip all over his words. Lester Hayes. And there were guys like that. There might have been a Sugar Ray Richardson who played for the Knicks. They hadn't finished college, and they were into all kinds of things that weren't holding. So I knew I didn't want to be just a dumb jock. I didn't want to be a player who got this job because she was an Olympian or because she was an athlete. So I worked hard, first to make sure I got my degree. And I finished up at Queens College. I had to do student teaching. And the reason I finished student teaching, I got it, but I was a little too intense for the middle schools that I worked at because these kids would ask for water. Can I take a break? And no, you can't have a break. We didn't get any water when we were practicing. We still didn't give us water. But I knew, you could get arrested if you don't give these kids water. And they asking for stuff. I said, no. I said to myself, this is not going to work. Let me just finish out this student teaching and leave it as a fallback in case something happens. My father always said, be prepared in case. And at least I would have of course I had my degree, and then I had my certification in education so I could teach in the schools. But once I had that, I went to Wall Street and decided to work because it was very competitive. And to me, it was like another great arena.
Okay.
I know that there was discrimination there, but you kind of plowed through it. There probably was some Me Too incidents around there as well. But I didn't have a problem with the Me Too stuff because I knew I would just stand up and look these guys, if not eye to eye, look down on them, and this is not going on, you know. And so I didn't have anything I could document of actually happening.
Right.
But I did have to put people in their place, and I was passed over for certain promotions and advancements. And I would handle it, learn my lesson. I usually transferred out of those departments and got picked up at another department and kept moving up, moving over until I found myself finally being able to sell securities for Merrill Lynch until they had their shenanigans that they got caught on. But, it's been a good career. And now, as you know me, I've taken all of that I learned in the business world, and now I'm at our local university, New Jersey City University, right here in Jersey City. And they found a home. I found a home there. They embraced me.
And what do you do there? Explain what you do there.
I started in the business department, not business, our school of business, which is great coming off of a business background. And they had an incubator there, which sort of is a hub to nurture small businesses. I was community outreach for the school of business, which was great. So I was able to speak with our elected officials in New Jersey, speak with the heads of different corporations down and along the Hudson River in Jersey City.
How did that come about? How did you move to Jersey City? How'd that happen?
Because I was still working on Wall Street. I lived in Queens, and I would commute to Wall Street areas, whether at the World Trade Center or Broadway, whatever down there. But I ended up working for Payne Weber. Okay. And Payne Weber ended up moving to Weehawken. They're now UBS. They're right over by the Houlihan's over there.
Right.
So when they moved over, they said, if you go with us to New Jersey, give you a little bonus or something. So I did. I was trying to get over here anyway because I had friends like Carol Blazejowski and others. We would always play pickup games. Okay. But I ended up coming over here and living in New Jersey, found an apartment, condo, the whole bit. And I've been here ever since 1988. I moved over here.
Okay.
So,
all right. How did the officiating come into play? And that's when I first met you.
That's when I met you, right?
Officiated my games. So.
Well,
I'm proud to say that you never gave me a technical, so I must have not yelled at you that much. See,
you didn't yell at me. You used to yell at the kids, but you yell at me.
Yeah, no, I used to yell at the officials too. Trust me, but I just didn't yell at you. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, you had to be. I didn't give out to too many technicals. They were usually like technicalities, the ones I gave out.
Okay.
Because I always liked the players, and I'll tell you the reason I went into officiating was because I was at Payne Weber, which became UBS. And I was so involved in computer programming and operations and working for this company that I had totally lost connection with players. Okay. And so there were great players like a St. Anthony's I didn't know about, but I would read that St. Anthony's is the number one team, or great girls' schools and girl players. They were down from St. John Vianney, down in South Shore. You had great teams here. And I didn't know these players. I didn't even know the game. So I had gotten so removed. Then I just went to the officiating school to learn how to officiate. Okay. I had a great feel for the game, and they enjoyed it because they wanted more players who understood the tempo and the beat of the games and understood the players as well as the coaches. And so I, just worked my way up from there. You really can't jump ahead when you're trying to be a basketball official because there's so much to learn, so much to see. That just because she's an Olympian, that doesn't make you a Division I official. Right. You really have to learn and see everything and learn the technicalities of the game, to look on the ball, off the ball, and to kind of handle your area. At the time when I was doing games for you in our footprint, our area, it was 2 players. There were only 2 officials. Now I think they're at 3. But I enjoyed it because it put me back with the players. Okay. And there were times when I could see the tension on a player's face, girl or boy, and I would just be at the free throw line, and I would just bounce the ball a few times and, looking around, making sure everybody is set on the line. Take a breath, hold your follow through, anything I would say. Just slow. Nice. Just slow. Just to calm, because I'm there for the players. I don't really care about the coaches, the fans, or the parents. I was just there for the players. And sometimes the players would get a little jittery, whether it's from a parent hollering or a coach hollering or, just calm down. Just take some breaths. And it would be on my time as the official. I could take an extra 5 seconds before I hand the ball over. And that's why I got back into it, because I had lost track of the players. I had lost track of good players, bad players, or just the games.
Okay.
And so I ended up at the little recreations. I learned all about the rec balls at the different recreation clubs. I tell a great story. I'm on the board of the Boys and Girls Club of Hudson County, and Gary Greenberg is the executive director over there. And Gary used to holler at me all the time, and I used to try to be on the opposite side of the court, so I didn't have to hear him, and then I don't have to give a T. If I can't hear you, I don't have to give you a technical.
Okay.
And again, I'm there for the players, and I can't believe, 20 years later, I'm not even sure he knows who I am, and he asked me to be on his board of directors for the Boys and Girls Club.
See?
Yeah, I always say no, I have no time, and then I say yes. And I love to tell the story. So I think this man, he yelled at me all the time, and then he came and asked me to be on his board. And of course I say yes, because I'm there for the kids of Hudson County, or the boys and girls. So you never know. Don't burn your bridges. That's why I don't burn your bridges.
I learned that all too well.
You have no idea. Have no idea. So
okay. How many years were you an official, Gail?
I did it for about 10 years.
Okay.
And I got a great chance to officiate the Tournament of Champions, the state championships. Yep. I would officiate down at Rutgers University, and that would be the games of parochial against the public school. Mm-hmm. Great game, but that's section games all up and down of New Jersey. Wonderful experience, learning Jersey again. And seeing great players from here local, the boys and girls of St. Anthony's.
Yep.
Right here, our local favorites, St. Pat's, and then the St. Anne, St. Aloysius, and it also helped me to learn my own community of Hudson County.
Okay, that's good.
It helped me to learn. I moved from New Jersey, and I moved from Queens, and I'm working at Payne Weber, and my head is down, and I don't have kids, so I'm not focused on the school and what's going on in the schools, but by officiating, it helped me, pick my head up, see what's going on, see what's around. So
okay, all right. So then you left the business world and you went to New Jersey City University.
Right.
And that was how many years ago, Gail?
Only 4 years ago, in past October. Okay. And the president of New Jersey City University, NJCU, is a good friend of mine, Sue Henderson. I saw president, and I had known Sue when I was in. When she was at Queens College, she was the director of advancement, I think.
Okay.
And so I knew her. She recruited me for the foundation, the Queens College Foundation. And so I still sit on that board for Queens College. And then maybe 7 years after that, she came to New Jersey City University.
Okay.
And I read in whatever local paper she's the president. I said, oh, that's wonderful. And then she called and asked me, one, would I come in and do a talk to the women's group? They have a women's gender studies. I did that one. Another time it was Black History Month. Would you come in and talk? I said, of course. And then another one was when she was sworn in. They call it a convocation. And so there's a whole ceremony when you're swearing in. Everyone comes in there. Education regalia. They have invited guests. She asked me to be the MC of that. And I had been the MC for the foundation when they would have a gala. I'd sit up there, make sure that people are coming in, keep the jokes coming or what have you. So she asked me to do that. And after that, I said, Sue, you got me doing stuff. Can you find something where I get paid?
That helps. That always helps.
And, it didn't take long. It took about 6 months. And then she said, I got a spot for you at the School of Business. And the dean over there, Dean Bernard McSherry, a great guy.
Okay.
Bernie McSherry had been on Wall Street. He had been the president of the New York Stock Exchange. He told me, maybe a year later, he said, I didn't want you here. I said, no, Bernie, I didn't know that. He said, no, Sue told me I had to have you.
Okay.
I said, oh. He said, and you know something? I am so glad that I did. And from there, we've been the best of friends. Me and Bernie, he's a great guy. As I was saying, I wanted to look back at, we had a mayor here called Glenn Cunningham was our mayor. And Glenn didn't live too far from me when I moved in. But I always remember Mayor Cunningham saying to those firms who had moved over from New York and came to Jersey City, and they're all lined up and down the Hudson River and Hudson Street, he said, start using our students from our high schools and colleges, start employing our residents here.
Yes.
You're not going to come here and then go over to Somerset or Morris County or West Jersey to get people and bring them over. Start using our Hudson County, our Jersey City residents.
Yes.
And so I still take that to task to T. And there was, we would send students to Goldman Sachs.
Okay.
And Goldman Sachs didn't like the students. They weren't up to par. They weren't skillful. And this is just on the cusp as Dean McSherry is coming. I wasn't there, but maybe the next year I came in, and as part of community outreach, I went back to Goldman Sachs. I said, okay, fine, you're not going to hire our students, but you are going to take our students. You are going to let us know how to improve our students. And so from there came the Goldman Sachs College Collaborative. And Goldman Sachs, we recruit the 10 students from NJCU. They also take 10 from Hudson County Community College, 10 from St. Peter's, and 10 students from the Borough of Manhattan Community College.
Oh, wow,
and
okay.
Goldman Sachs takes these 10 students, or 40 students, as well as their support advisors like me, and takes them on a course that lasts about 6 months. Everything from how to write a resume, how to dress, how to be your authentic self, how to conduct how to be in an interview. So all of those soft skills that you need, shaking hands and looking eye-to-eye contact. There was one young man in our group, Brian, at the conversation around how to be your authentic self, he revealed that he was undocumented. He came here when he was 3 years old,
wow.
And he's not a U.S. citizen. I didn't even know that. He's scheduled to graduate in 6 months. Do I tell my future employer that I'm not a citizen?
No.
Or is that being authentic? Yeah. It was a great conversation. It brought me to tears. But Goldman Sachs was able to say, you're going to reveal who you are.
Yeah.
And they are able to say also that, maybe you don't come to a Goldman Sachs with 50,000 employees. Maybe you look to find a spot in a local company where you're going to have to do 10 different jobs as opposed to being pigeonholed into just one. Okay. And get your confidence and and Brian, our student, took that advice. He had to offer to go to maybe a Fidelity, which is much larger corporation, okay, as opposed to ABC Electronics, which is still down in that footprint of Harborside. But he's doing all different types of jobs, and they know he's undocumented.
Okay.
And they can still take him. And so Goldman Sachs was able to tell us what students needed to come up to par. And they offer internships, and our students are better suited to qualify for them, to compete for them. They may not get the internship, but 2 of them have over the course of the last 3 years. Oh. And then Goldman Sachs is also giving money to NJCU to run that program inside.
That's awesome.
So Goldman Sachs can give us $10,000, $15,000, or $25,000. So that's me collecting money, or that's the wrong word, getting gifts, obtaining gifts when I wasn't even trying. And so I think that's when I got transferred or promoted, I'm not sure which, this past 6 months. Now I'm a Director of Development at NJCU, Director of Development for the William J. Maxwell, the College of Arts and Science.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not in the business community.
Now, for 4 years, you've had the best commute you'll ever have in your life, right?
Oh. I try to walk to work because I can see it from here, but I know so many people, they always picking me up before I can get across Route 440.
Oh,
get in the car. You can't walk here. It's too crowded. I said, I can see my building, right? I'm just trying to get to West Side. Yeah. I'm trying to get to Kennedy. Get in the car. I'm going to try to walk again, but it's a great commute, and I'm so happy I'm able to contribute to the students, to the young people of this community. Well, I'm also, now that I'm in arts and science, they moved me out of business. I'm supporting a Proyecto Science program for STEM, which we run at NJCU, and that's for middle school, ages grades 6 through 8.
Wow.
And it teaches the STEM, the science, the technology. I encourage anyone on your podcast to go to our website, njcu.edu, and just type in science summer camps. We want a few summer camps, so one of them is the Proyecto Science, which is for STEM, and there's a small fee when they're in the 6th grade, but no charge in the 7th and 8th, because we always want the students to come back. And they get great disciplines, and it's open to all of Hudson County. Okay. And we also have, we take students from East Hanover because they had a science that wasn't working, so we have taken them in. Okay. So now that I'm in arts and science with development, I'm writing grants or looking for money. I've tapped into a few name brands like a Honda Foundation, AT&T Foundation, Novartis Pharmaceuticals. Wow. I've been putting together different internships now and getting our students a up to par. A lot of our students from Hudson County, one, they have never been out of Hudson County. When they're looking for a job, they don't want to leave Hudson County.
Right.
Many of them would rather, even though you have a science or a STEM background, you want to be a bio major, you can't go over to the mall and work at Popeyes, or you can't do that.
Right,
You need to
right.
get an internship in your field.
Right.
And so I help them to get the confidence, which is what Goldman Sachs is doing as well, getting the confidence so our young people can go out and land those jobs and see what it's like to be in a corporate setting. There's another pharmaceutical company named Mallinckrodt Pharmaceuticals. One of their executives sits on our foundation board at NJCU,
Well,
and we're able to get her. She was instrumental in getting 4 NJCU students internships at their intern program, so they can get out of Hudson County. Where is it? That's in Basking Ridge.
yeah, well,
So they had to
Mallinckrodt used to be located right where new NJCU has their new dormitories. That was originally, that's where Mallinckrodt had their headquarters.
Oh, I didn't know that.
See, yeah.
Didn't know that. But they've taken us in, and we were able to
Jersey
place
City
students.
native. See, I grew up in that neighborhood, so that's how I knew Mallinckrodt was there. So,
Oh, and you know the name then too.
very well, yeah, because
Yeah,
I
good.
was there for 30 some odd years. So
Well, they moved further west into Baskin Ridge. But again, with Mayor Cunningham in the back of my head saying, you got to take our students, and if you're not, you're going to help us prepare them.
okay,
And so that's what we've been doing. Mallinckrodt again. They took 4 of our students. They said they only wanted 2. After we did the interviews, they took 5, but then they had to put back 1 because they said, really, we're going to take 4, which was great.
so
They paid them.
my friend Mayor Cunningham's legacy continues on today.
Yes.
Even though he's
And I love telling that to State Senator Sandy Cunningham.
That's correct.
When she came, she was a couple of months ago, and I think she brought either Glenn's nieces with her. One of Glenn Cunningham's nieces is in law enforcement in another county. I can't
Oh,
remember
wow,
which.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
That
But
I
I
didn't know.
was-
See?
Yeah, I was very happy to tell Mrs. Cunningham or State Senator Cunningham that story again, along with, and she was able to share it with Glenn's 2 nieces. That if you're not going to take us, you're going to tell us why, and you're going to help us prepare.
Okay.
And Goldman Sachs has been a very good partner for NJCU, as well as St. Peter's, as well as Hudson County Community College.
Beautiful.
And that's what you want. Fidelity has been a good partner to the Boys and Girls Club of Hudson County. They send mentors over. They give us space when we have to run different programs. And so that's that's the second part of what I do. So these companies want to be good citizens, good corporate citizens. It's just the outreach to show them the program, show them how they can be supportive of us all.
Okay.
And they've been great partners. I don't down them. There's even another one down there who works with our veterans. We have about 200 veterans enrolled at NJCU in all different programs, but they're a big supporter of veterans.
Okay.
And so they look to hire veterans, hire them as interns, and bring them in so they're more comfortable. That's their focus, and we're happy that we can partner with them, so they feel good.
Okay. So all in all, Gail, to sum this all up, you've had a great career in sports. You seem obviously very, very happy that you're here in Jersey City working at NJCU, and no one can ever take away that nice silver medal that you wear around your neck. And like I said, you show it off as many times as when you do guest speaking engagements, like you did with me with the Hudson County Hall of Fame, which you are
right.
a member of. And you did at the Law Day in the Hudson County Courthouse last year.
That's right, last year.
Yeah, so I mean, it's you've had a great career, and it's still going, and that's the most
It's
important.
still going, and I feel good because I'm contributing. That's what you want to do.
Okay.
I want to be able to contribute, and I enjoy helping the young people of our county, young people and the families as well.
Beautiful.
And I often tell people that I grew up in Queens, but when I was looking for a home in New Jersey, I wanted a neighborhood that was mixed. I didn't want to wake up every day with everybody looking like me, you know? So I enjoy the diversity of Jersey City and Hudson County, and I enjoy it, as I move and progress more and more through the state. And I just try to be an Olympic ambassador. I try to be an open person for our community and be an example for our students, be an example for our young people at all different ages. I've just had a very blessed, very fortunate life, and I just keep great people around me, and I keep a great city, Jersey City, around me.
And you keep a really talented person around you in your wife Audrey, who is an incredibly talented woman. God bless. So I mean that's so
yes, Audrey Small. Many of them will know her from the as a commentator for the Ebony Fashion Fair. She toured with them for 7 years. We all
know her. She's she was well known for her commentation, and she's very, very talented. And the two of you make a very, very good couple. So God bless.
Thank you. And we do the African American program at Explore Middle School in Jersey City. We did it last year, and they asked us again. I think it's around, let's say, February 28th. I can't remember the exact date, but it's on one of the Thursdays. This will be our second year.
How ironic is that? Is because I was there yesterday with their career day. So I spoke in the classrooms yesterday in career day, talking to them. And I introduced the podcast to those students. So it's it all goes around, right? We're all in the same circles. There's no question.
It sure does, yeah. And when you're doing good follows you.
Yeah, and well, you've done a lot of good. And every single time I always contact you and ask you for a favor, you're always there for me, and I'm very, very grateful for that. You're a great friend, and I appreciate you spending some time and telling your story today. And I hope a lot of people tune in and listen and get to know a little bit more about Gail Marquis. Gail, thank you so very much for this chat. You were phenomenal, and I hope to see you again real soon.
Very good. Thanks so much. Thanks a lot, Jim. Have a great day.
Okay, you too. And ladies and gentlemen, that was Gail Marquis, the Olympic silver medal winner from the 1976 Olympics, and she now works at NJCU, and she's encouraging you to, if you really want to go to, if you have children in the summer programs that want to get involved, go to njcu.org and look up Gail Marquis' summer programs. Thanks for listening to this edition of the Hudson County Sports Podcast. I'll have another special guest upcoming next week. Thanks again for listening. Have a great day.